first day, I went in with my parents to Anne's class, obviously, and met Anne. And the only thing I remember about the first day is her sitting at the piano, playing on the piano. It's probably, I don't know if this was on the first day, but I remember the cleanup song quite readily. But yeah, just that setup, everyone on the carpet and Anne playing on the piano. She was a wonderful teacher. I think the thing that I enjoyed most about her was that she would talk to us, like adults almost, like reasonable human beings, and not sort of infantilize us. I just really enjoyed being with her because I felt I could talk to her, and we had a very open relationship between myself and her, and between the class and her. So I really enjoyed that. I don't think the day ever went by when we didn't have, some sort of activity that involved the piano, or at least sitting in a group on the carpet and all participating in a group activity that was similar to that, reading, playing a game. I was looking at an old songbook, and just many of the songs I remember actually singing in her class. Songs by people like Pete Seeger and Bob Dylan, and that have obvious political messages in them, and so I think I must have learned something from them, or taken a message from them anyway. I remember the first year, the first year after I was in Anne's class, I think I was with Lori, which I think was a very easy transformation because they sort of co-taught everything, and they were very, compatible anyway. At least I remember them that way. And so I sort of, and also just having Anne in the next classroom, there was always a little bit of switch around, and Anne would come see us, and it was always very relaxed, so that although I was with another teacher, it was the same community environment, and it was very easy to transfer into that sort of situation. I remember things happening in the playground that led to peacemakings in the classroom, but I don't think we actually physically had peacemakings outside in the playground. I do remember bringing problems back to the classroom, though, and discussing them, and doing peacemakings. I remember being in many peacemakings, yeah. More visually than like what happened, but I can see myself in the peacemaking circle. And we had, I think it was the speaking rock, I think it was called. You pass it, and that signifies that you're the one that that is able to do the talking. I learned just from the peacemaking, again, no interrupting, things like that, how to behave in that sort of situation. Also basic skills like cleaning up after yourself, and Anne was very good about that. I think everyone actually enjoyed cleaning up because of the cleanup song, and it was turned into an event instead of a chore. So I remember that sort of thing. I don't actually remember learning the curriculum or skills that were taught to us as those things, but I definitely think I gleaned some important life skills from being in that class. Ratty. I think there was Ratty 1, Ratty 2, and maybe Ratty 3, but I definitely remember the rat. I remember, there was some sort of title for it, but many days I was sort of in charge of handling the rat, and because I was a big fan of the pets in the classroom, even later on in Denise's class when we had more things, snakes and lizards and all sorts of things. But I've always loved animals, and even back then I loved having the rat, and I was always very possessive with it, take it and make obstacle courses out of it and things like that. For it, not out of it. There were many group activities that we did with the rat too. I remember sitting around in the circle and putting the rat in the middle, and it would go to various people and be cross-legged, crawl up through your legs and stuff. So Yeah, everyone loved the rat, especially me. I remember building quite clearly several different materials. I remember the huge wooden blocks, which were probably the best thing because you could actually crawl into them and, you know, use what you were building. I remember the corks. I remember building with film canisters. Oh, many, many things. There were actual, like, smaller building blocks, I believe, but some great things in building castles. And I think I actually learned the, fundamentals of architecture in that class. Just start with a large base, and I think the greatest achievement probably in those couple of years was I was one of the few people that could build a roof with the cork blocks or with whatever blocks, because you sort of, through stacking them, you can get it so that the balance is just right, and you can get that one on the top while it's still hollow. And that was that was very fun. Great sense of achievement, when you have a huge thing and get to sort of put a roof on it. After Laurie, I think I moved to another school for a brief period of time. I went to Harbourfront School, and after about half a year with that, I went to the Island School, two very different schools from themselves and from DAS. So I think that was a chance to sort of take peacemaking and apply it to places where it hadn't been taught to everyone, so that I was able to use it more internally than have physical peacemaking sessions. And I think that was good, and I think that was a valuable experience too, because I think I'm better for it, and that if I had continued at DAS right the way up, grade 6, grade 8, whatever, it wouldn't have been as good, simply because I was able to make it my own at other schools where I was the only one with that knowledge. It gives you the ability to deal with situations in your own way, not to get hung up on the actual conflict. Sort of let it slide, respect other people's point of view, and talk about it. Talk about it, if not with the person that you're having the problem with, someone else, and not bottle up your emotions. And sort of that's what leads to more anger. So it helped me to realize really how to make it my own, how to take peacemaking and turn it into something I can actually use in a real world situation. Well, I've still got the fundamental knowledge basis of how to respect other people's points of view, and how to interpret a situation, and just really listen and share with other people. Because basically, I guess it taught me that talking with people is always the best thing, and that not to avoid your problems, but confront them. If I hadn't learned peacemaking at a very early age, I don't think I would have been able to accept it and to work with it the same way I have, and to adapt it and make it my own, because you need the fundamental skills, and to go through the process of sitting in the circle, repeating the rules, and actually doing the peacemaking when you're that age, so that when you mature you can adapt to that process and make it work for yourself. And if it was taught to someone who was older, I don't think they would be able to, well, first of all, participate in that basic activity, because they wouldn't be as willing to share. If someone, were to try and get me to sit down in a circle and talk about my feelings at 16, I'd be less willing to do that. And so I think that if I were to teach someone those skills, I would want it to be a young age group. And I also think it's valuable to move on from doing those sort of things, so that, not continue the classic peacemaking, sort of have it evolve into something else after, the initial few years. I think what it's become is it's just internalized. I've internalized it, and I'm able to take the basic principles of peacemaking and apply them to my own actions and to my analysis of other people's actions, so that I can understand what happens instead of and come to terms with it. And it no longer requires physically dealing with it and ending up with that last handshake or whatever, however you want to close it, but just so that you have personal closure on a conflict, and you understand what happens. I feel like I don't have much conflict at all. I'm very easygoing. Well, easygoing in the sense that I'm not going to resort to violence or to to confrontation over things that bother me, and I just if something bothers me, I understand it and I move on, and it's not a problem. And I think conflict is a big part of everyone's life because it's a big part of human interaction. But as long as you understand it, and you can deal with it, and it becomes more of a positive thing than a negative thing. In grade 7, for 7-8, where I went to Parkdale Public School, which is the local school for this area, and that was a great experience. I really enjoyed that just because it was so different. It was a very big school, very good resources. They had just gone on an experimental program, and we had 6 computers in every classroom, new computers, and a TV in every classroom. And it was fabulous. We hooked up a system where we could do the morning announcements over the TV. We called it Parkdale Live. I was the host for that. Yeah, it would be interesting if I still have videos actually from Parkdale Live. So every Friday I would do the announcements over the TV, and we put on skits or things like that every once in a while. So that was great. Yeah, and just the mix of kids. It was the first time I really experienced being in a class where I was, one of 2 or 3 white kids. Everyone else was Asian, Indian, or Caribbean, but I really liked it because of the diversity, and I really thrived in that situation. Occasionally I would have to deal with conflicts, but being able to understand them and come to terms with them helped, and it meant that I never really got too absorbed in anything or too frightened from anything. I was able to maintain a good equilibrium. We were visited a couple times by groups from outside of the school that came in to do workshops, maybe not workshops, but presentations anyway, on that sort of thing, on conflict escalation, but not to the same degree that was at DAS. I decided to go to Vaughan Road Academy. It's a public school in Toronto. I chose it because of the International Baccalaureate program, which is an enriched program. And basically it's more of an advanced curriculum, and you're marked on an international level instead of provincial. I've definitely seen a clear food chain sort of within schools. Um, People who are obviously on top, and the people who don't fit into the school socially. Um, yeah, but generally it seems that they keep quite separate, and there's not much overlap really. I think the main conflicts come from different groups who are both quite socially capable and physically prominent within the school. Fist fights and is probably the most severe thing that results from that, like a group of people and a fight. But on a day-to-day basis, just segregation within the school. One group will hang out in one hallway and one will hang out in the other, and you just stick with your friends. And I have been in the situation where I've been confronted with physical violence, and no, I've confronted it and dealt with people. I don't believe in shirking away from that sort of situation. I think it's usually better to confront them.
Did you fight?
Yeah. I don't enjoy being in that situation, but if it has to come to it, then I will engage in a fight. I've always wanted to be in the military, army, infantry, more specifically, and first time I learned about the military college was the first time I wanted to go there. So I've never wanted anything other than that, because I had fairly good grades in grade 8, and that I was just going to really apply myself academically to my high school and get the marks I needed to go to whatever university I wanted, and which at the time and still is the Royal Military College of Canada. As a little kid running through the woods with a stick in my hands, pretending it was a rifle or something, I've just always imagined myself as a soldier. Next year I'm going to be completing high school, grade 12, and after that I'm hoping to go to the Royal Military College. If not, I'm in the reserves now, and I'll be doing my training this summer. So if I don't get into the university, then I'll consider doing some time overseas or something, doing some work with the reserves.